Socialization starts from the cradle to the casket. It's a long life process. It starts from the day an individual is born to the end of life. In every society in the world, there are 6 main agents of socialization, which include the family, religion, mass media, peer groups, polity, and education. And we want to find out which of these agents of socialization will be more effective in socializing American youth today in order to embrace the American cultural heritage to move American civilization forward. Therefore, when we look at the United States of America today, the family in the inner cities and some other areas is becoming weaker in socializing the youth. It's becoming a broken agent of socialization in socializing the youth, especially when the youth reaches the age of 7 and above. When you look at LGBTQ families, the single-parental home families, the 2-parental home families, and the foster homes, each one is confused about what kind of values that the children should embrace in order to survive in today's America. Sometimes it is due to environmental factors. Because of this, when you look at some families, there are alcoholic family, abusive family, and drug use all over is leading to unconventional behaviors in some of these homes. Because of this, it makes it harder for the children of such homes to embrace the rich culture of the United States of America. Sometimes in some homes, we have children raising children. Children between the ages of 12 to 17 often have babies. And the parents of such children are in their 30s, so the grandmothers are in their 30s, while the children are still children and still raising children. It makes it harder for such families to raise such children to be more unique as needed in a society. Also, during economic downturns, during recessions, it becomes more difficult for some families to cope with and often leads to bad parenting. As a result, it leads to these youth committing crimes all over in the country. And also, in some families, smoking has become a culture. Smoking culture is a problem. What are they smoking? Smoking marijuana. When you ask some of these boys who have been smoking, that what time did you start smoking? They may say, at the age of 8 or 9 or 10. Why do you smoke? Some may say, my parents smoke, my mama smoked, my daddy smoked, my auntie smoked, my uncle smoked. So this smoking culture is damaging the youth of America today, particularly in the inner cities of America. Also in some homes, in some communities, firearms usage has become a problem, creating violence in such communities. And children who are raised in such communities often embrace the same idea of firearms, that children are holding guns all over in the country, which is very, very difficult for these children to behave very, very well in the society. Also, there are some children in gang activities. Those kind of homes with gang activities, it is always difficult to raise these children not to be deviants. And also, in some homes, the language use. Language is quintessential, but the language in some of these homes seem to be more damaging to the youth. So today's famine in the United States of America is becoming more difficult for the family to raise these children, to embrace the rich culture of the United States of America. So upon these problems faced by the family, which of the socialization agents will be more effective to assist the family in raising the children? We shall say religion. Religion is a perfect arena for raising the children of today. There's no mistake about it. But religion today also has its specific problems. Religion is in a confused stage. Why? Because some of these religious institutions have not been able to settle their sexual gratification differentials and the kind of model they value. Some are homosexuals, some are pedophiles, some are polygamists. So with this confused stage of religion, not able to determine what model sexually to be accepted, is so confusing. And so the children of today sometimes do not trust their spiritual leaders. Also, in religion, there is a lot of hypocrisy among the leaders of these religious organizations. This hypocrisy, they say one thing and do something different. And as a result, the hypocrisy associated with sexual aspect, that they do not know what value they have to follow, such hypocrisy have actually wrested the potency of religion to socialize the children of today. Because most of the youth do not trust their religious leaders. But despite that, religion is still one of the best ways in which children can be raised very well into the cultural norms of the society. However, in today's world, religious leaders sit in the pulpit and preach to their members. They hardly go out to evangelize. But evangelization is very, very important. In the 17th and 18th century, if there is a moral downturn in the society in the United States of America, pastors go out and preach to the people. But today it is not like that. They are in their churches preaching only to their members. But what about those? Those who are rotting in the society, they need the message more. And how will they get the message? There is a saying, if the mountain is not coming to Muhammad, Muhammad has to go to the mountain. So, these pastors must prepare to go to the communities and preach. However, the communities are bad these days. Sometimes the kind of drug usage, the kind of firearms, it is difficult. But that is the work Christ has given to these leaders to do. So, in today's world, religion is also having it difficult to socialize the youth into unique cultural heritage of the United States of America. Also, we love prosperity preachers. A lot of them preach good, and they are willing to go out sometimes and preach. However, when they go out to preach in stadiums, they have to charge a fee. So these people who are rotten are not prepared to pay any fee to go and listen to such preaching. So eventually it ends up that only those believers will go and listen to such evangelists. So these evangelists who are supposed to go out and preach to the people are not able to reach the very people who need the message. So religion has its own problem. If religion has this kind of problem, then what socialization agent is needed? In view of this, we will look at the mass media to do the work. The mass media reaches everybody, but the mass media is losing its track in reaching the youth of today. In the mass media, every advertising is enticed with some element of sexuality. And this is affecting the youth of today. There is a whole lot of distractions in the social media. Whole lot of distractions in the traditional media. A whole lot of distractions in the movies. So the mass media is becoming more a problem in raising the children. There are others that are so good, but how many of these kids would tune to those areas? The majority of the mass media in dealing with sexual element to entice people in this advertising is making it difficult for children to be raised well. Then we have to turn to the peer group. The children themselves can raise themselves. But the peer group is where we have all the negativity arising from. The peer group socialization, although it will have been good, but they don't know better. The peer group is where children learn how to smoke, drink, talk about sex. So peer group socialization is more of the negative element. At that point, peer group socialization makes these children more defiant to authorities and therefore become defiant to anything which is good from the dominant culture. They always go against the dominant culture, making it difficult for peer groups to socialize the peers to become good citizens. So what is left? What do we have today in the United States of America that can assure that children are raised right? That can assure that the youth of today will embrace the rich cultural heritage of the United States of America to move American civilization forward. Then we have polity and education. The polity aspect has to push education so that education can do the work. Why is it so? Because education is very crucial. Very, very crucial. And as a result, the output of education can be measured quantitatively and qualitatively. Therefore, education is one aspect of the socialization agent that cannot be left out in socializing the youth to embrace the rich cultural heritage of the United States of America. There is no civilization that has come to this world that if you talk about it, you will not discuss about the intellectual element of that particular society. We talk about Greek society, the Egyptian society, we talk about the Indians, the Chinese, the European civilization, the American civilization. All these civilizations, without education, we are not dealing very effectively of what can actually build up the society. Education is the most important element of all the socialization agent that the polity has to back up in order to raise the case of the United States today to be more effective in embracing the cultural heritage to move American civilization forward. In view of this, when you look at education, when you talk about the Greek society, it is not only talking about Alexander's pillage, Alexander the Great's pillage of empires, without discussing anything about the intellectual part of the Greek society. Oftentimes we hear names like Plato, Aristotle, just to mention a few. These intellectuals has kept the Greek society or the Greek civilization so impact to the extent that today we talk about Greek without its educational aspect. There's nothing more than its educational aspect. The intellectualism of the Greeks is what makes the Greek society great. Therefore, when it comes to education, Lyndon B. Johnson, the 36th President of the United States of America, under the federal system of government, have this to say about education. To him, education will not cure all the problems of the society, but without it, no cure for any problem is possible. There is no cure of any problem possible in a society without education. And that's what Lyndon B. Johnson observed. To him also, education is the key to opportunities in the society. And as a result, the equality of educational opportunities must be the birthright of every citizen in the society. Every citizen in the society, education opportunity must be your birthright. If it is so, why is it that some people may say, school is not for everybody? Education is not for everybody. You are wrong. Education is for everybody. Because according to Lyndon B. Johnson, education opportunity is the birthright of every citizen. He therefore concluded that there is a third place to build the great society of America. And that third place to build the great society of America can be found in the classrooms of America. To him, there, your children lives will be shaped, which means our children's lives will be shaped in the classrooms of America, according to Lyndon B. Johnson. Therefore, education is so important to our society's development. Also talking about education, Aristotle also has this to say. He lived in the BCs in the Greek society. And according to him, all men by nature desires knowledge. Everybody desires knowledge. When he says all men, it means everybody desires knowledge. Therefore, education is an ornament in prosperity and a refuge in adversity. So when you are in trouble, education is there as a refuge. All men desires knowledge. Everybody desires knowledge. Therefore, education is there for everybody, and nobody can be left out in education. Therefore, he saw that the educated person is quite different from an uneducated. There is a distinction between the two, as he observed. So he went further, even to praise teachers who teach the youth. So Aristotle, who lived in the BCs, saw the significance of education in raising the youth of the United States of America or every society. So education is very, very important to everyone, according to how Aristotle saw the importance of education. Then let us see, in our own society, in the United States of America today, what some of our presidents have observed about education. The first president of the United States of America, President George Washington, have this to say. To him, the best means of forming a manly, virtuous, and happy people will be found in the right education of the youth. Without this foundation, every other means, in my opinion, must fail. That's what George Washington was telling us. Every other means must fail. So to be a happy people, education is the foundation of American society. When you look at American civilization, education is the foundation to maintain the civilization that we have. Now let us look at some of the important sayings of other presidents. We have President George H.W. Bush. When he was campaigning with Ronald Reagan against President Carter, they did not like Carter setting up education department as an entity on its own. But guess what? When they won the election, They saw the significance of education and never tried any means to destroy it. And because of that, President H.W. Bush have this to say: think about every problem, every challenges we face. The solution to each comes from education. So the solution to each starts with education, means that whatever problem or whatever challenges we face, it starts from education. The solution starts from education. That's what President George H.W. Bush observed. And that was an excellent quotation of him. If he has ruled for about 8 years, we will have seen more of him in terms of education in America. Then also, President John Adams, the second president of the United States of America, have this to say about education. There are two educations, according to him. One should teach us how to make a living, and the other how to live. What does that mean? Which means America's dream, the dreams of America, to everyone with education to teach us, to gain the knowledge, to gain the skills that we need to improve our lives. The skill that we need to give us the financial independence is great. But the second part is education should also teach us how to live. To live is the relationship that we have in our communities, in our families, everywhere we are, how we live among each other. Education is the most significant aspect to teach us how to live with each other. How to live with each other is so important, equally to the skills that we gain from education. And that is one of the most important aspects of education. And as a result, Horace Marx, the architect of American public school, also said this: a human being is not attaining his full height until he is educated. Until he is what? Educated. So education is one agent of socialization that today will help the youth of the United States of America to embrace the rich culture of the society, to ensure American civilization to move forward. How are we doing about education? Are our leaders contributing much to education? Because of all the agents of socialization, education is the only one that stands out unique to socialize the youth of the United States of America today. The United States of America is great, and is great in everything. especially in its educational system. When Horace Mann went all over in the country in advocating for public school educational system, that is one unique thing that has come to America to ensure that American democracy is alive. The whole world is looking at the United States. Most countries like to imitate the United States. They like to emulate the United States because of some uniqueness of some of the institutional makeups in the United States of America. But in today's America, education is falling. Education is going down, not at the universities, but the base of education is continuously falling in standard. What is the cause of this? When we observe the American society today and its educational system, there are some school districts that lack textbooks. They lack textbooks. Some districts because of funding. Others, it's a deliberate attempt of a new philosophical position that textbooks are not necessary. But you just imagine a school without textbooks. What will be the reading skills of the students? Schools without textbooks. And if you go around asking people or principals or some administrators, some authorities of schools, some directors of schools, why they don't like textbooks, some may say textbooks makes a lot of mistakes. But guess what? In the book industry, we have first edition, third edition, 10th edition, 15th edition. The editions make books better. So textbooks, no matter how it is, can be made better. So that's how textbooks can be made better for the students. Also, some will say, let's use computers. That's good. Using computers is good. But if you put knowledge in computers, students are not going to read. So one of the best ways also, if we are looking for cheaper books, we can call for e-books and print it for the students to read. Or we can go for the traditional textbooks for the students to read. Because the students are not reading a lot of textbooks, there is a reading problem in schools. And sometimes you see directors of schools and administrators of schools ready to hire a reading specialist to teach the students how to read. Schools without books is a problem. And so, when there are no books, what happens? Students lack vocabulary. If students are reading mathematics books, science books, social study books, art, and physical education as well as health education, they will embrace the concepts and will be able to use it in their daily speaking. They will write better. So standardized books is more important. Look at what Horace Mann said about books. The architect of the American public school said, a house without books is like a room without windows. A school without books is equally like a room without windows. It is dark. So why don't you provide these children textbooks? If for some reason it's funding problems, tell the parents to buy the books for the student. And with this, the problem will be solved. Without textbooks, we are damaging the students. If we want computers only and put knowledge in computers, and we want the student to read from the computers, there's a lot of problems here. In the computer, we have the social media. In the computer, we have free naked pictures. We have free porn in the computers. And so all these distractions, if a student is using computers to read, the teacher has to monitor the student. If the student is at home reading from the computer, the parents have to monitor the student. But who has time for that? No one has time for that all students at home have to be monitored all the time. There are less distractions in the usage of textbooks or e-books. So print e-books or textbooks and give it to the students. If there is an assignment on the computer, they can go and do it. Students need textbooks. If authorities today do not know, they have to know that there are some schools which have no textbooks, especially in the inner city schools. There are some schools which is also a deliberate attempt due to philosophical background of the administrators that they don't believe in textbooks. And that is one aspect making American education falling, because the students don't read standardized textbooks. They don't read standardized e-books. And that is the major problem. Now, considering the problems of education, which is pushing education standards so low, could also be attributed to indoctrination of teachers to use one instructional methodology. There was a time in the United States of America, the popular methodology became cooperative learning. You go to every school, you see administrators asking teachers, are you putting them in groups? Aren't you doing cooperative learning? Cooperative learning everywhere. So even in some of the universities, when students are taking educational methodology class, professors use the whole semester to teach about cooperative learning. And when you ask them, what about the other methodologies? They will say the students will be able to catch up when they enter into the profession. So the only methodology that has been given to the student is cooperative learning. In today's education, we talk about differentiated instructional learning. So people ask you, are you differentiating? Aren't you differentiating? Are you differentiating? So differentiated instruction today is the main methodology being used that most administrators believe will help the students to meet the needs. That's how to meet the needs of the student, through differentiated instruction. But guess what? Differentiated instruction and cooperative learning both have advantages and some disadvantages. Cooperative learning can help students to move on. It can help students to pass the class. But it doesn't mean that learning has taken place. Because when you put them in groups, not everybody learns by this group method. Therefore, there could be an affluent student among these groups who can work the problems, who can solve the problems. And when the solution is distributed to all the students, the rest of the students copy. So some of the students just copy answers rather than really learning. So cooperative learning also has its disadvantage when we talk about independent learning. And therefore, when you put such a student in a standardized testing, the student breaks down. The student can't pass because that particular student did not do the work but just copy. So in schools, we have about 150 instructional methodologies that teachers go to school to learn. So in order to help the students in a classroom to learn effectively, teachers should be allowed to use other methodologies to reach the students or to help the students who have different learning styles. Students have different learning styles. When we look at multiple intelligence and the true color, if we use true color, every student may have a dominant color, but at the same time, that student may have percentages of other colors. The multiple intelligence tells us that some students learn by hearing, others by seeing, others by feeling, others by doing work. That's how learning takes place. So let the teacher apply different methodological approaches to help the student, because one method alone becomes disadvantage to some of the students in the classroom. Also, large class sizes. This is a problem, especially in the inner city schools. Large class size is a problem. Evidence or researchers have come out with the results that smaller classes leads to higher student achievement in the standardized testing. But in the inner city schools, with specific reference to Detroit, you can have a classroom of about 35 to 45 students in a classroom. And this kind of large classes impedes student learning. It makes it difficult for some students to learn. Because in large classes, where a teacher is alone, without security, without a guide, without aid, such big classes, teachers use almost half of the time in dealing with discipline issues. So large classes are damaging to most of the inner city schools. Therefore, we have to make sure that the states mandate schools to have a minimum class size or to have a maximum class size. If it is 22 or 20 or 15, that will help. But for 35 and 45, such students are disadvantaged. And therefore, it has to be taken care of large class sizes. The next thing which is affecting Americans' educational standard is the community-based education. Community-based education is like Jim Crow. Separate but equal. That is the problem. Separate but equal. If you are born in a particular city, that's the only way you can be educated. If your parents are not moving to another city, where you were born is the same educational system you're going to have. Even if there is a street crossing your city and another city, and there is a good school in the other city, you cannot cross the street and go to the other city. So if you were born in a ghetto or born in a hood, you get hood education. You get ghetto education. And that is the problem. Because with community-based education, sometimes the curriculum is community-based. And so, students don't even get anything better. Community education is so limited. It does not promote healthy academic competition. A healthy academic competition that encourages all the students to learn. How will this problem be solved? Because with community education, it creates racism, it leads to discriminations, and also it creates inequality. And based upon what we have observed, to solve this problem, we can look at Maryland model. Maryland education is organized according to counties. But one thing we don't know is anyone in a particular city can move to another city school within Maryland counties. That would have been great. So we have to organize schools according to county level. That one is a little broader, a little broad than the community base, which depends on the city. So your residency determines your school. But if we can have schools based on counties or a larger geographical area that the state can design so that in each school district, teachers are paid the same amount according to their degrees and qualifications. Funding is the same in each city within the county or within the larger geographical area designed by the state. And it can be also mandated that each city can take 60% of the residents of that city and allow 40% of the student population to come from the other cities within the county. So, based upon the state standard of classroom sizes, when a school district, or let's say a particular city, reaches its maximum, other students are moved to the other cities because they are all the same funding, same teachers, same curriculum. And be a broader-based education will be more beneficial to the student because a lot of students will not go into that school to cram because they don't come from the same community. It will also prevent social passing in that district. Students will really learn. And by that, students can have that kind of freedom to break through their class lines. They will break through the racial boundaries and the inequalities. So a broader-based education is far better than the community-based education. Because education based on cities is so limited, and it does not promote healthy competition among the schools. Therefore, the larger the school area, the better it will be to raise the children of this country, to be able to raise the standard of education in America. Considering the falling standard of education, funding inequality is one of them. According to Coleman, in his research in 1960s, he came out with this finding that money doesn't matter, which means if you are funding your students $8,000 per pupil, and another school district is funding its student $40,000 per pupil or $30,000 per pupil, we expect that at the end of it, the students who were funded by 7,000 or 8,000 should be able to score the same standard as the students who were funded by 40,000 or 30,000. Does it really make sense? That is the funding that every conservative in the United States embraced in the 1960s. That money doesn't matter. Other researchers have also gone into research and have come out with the idea that money really matters. Because if you are funding your school by 5,000, 8,000 compared to a school that's funded by 40,000 or 30,000, what will be the resource? The resources for students who are being funded by 8,000, that will be not enough to give them resources. That's why some schools lack textbooks. So funding inequality is a major problem in America. So each schools are organized on a broad base, and each city within the county or within a wider geographical area, and are being funded on the same amount. Hopefully, students will be able to get the resources that they need. They will be able to pay the teachers, so that when teachers know that they all have the same pay, there is no need to be looking around to move quickly from one school to another. But when the resources are limited, teachers look around for other alternative jobs, and they move quickly. So some schools sometimes end up having about 3 or 4 teachers in a particular classroom within a year. In some situations, some students are being taught by substitute teachers throughout the year, and that is the problem. So funding inequality will always ensure inequality in education. Standard will not be the same. That's why standard has been falling in the United States. Look at the good schools in America. The students are well funded. Then the bad schools in America are those which are less funded. So funding inequality is a problem. Therefore, Coleman's research that money doesn't matter is really not true. Money really matters. Because if you're talking about small class size, without money, how can you run small class sizes? if you have large student population. When you're talking about computers for e-books or using computers today, if you have less funding, how can you get that resource? Likewise, textbooks. Sometimes they are more expensive. And so some schools do not have enough money to buy books. And that is the problem, which is affecting American education today. Therefore, if we are able to find all schools on equal terms, we shall see the same results across the board. And that will help education in America. Also, lack of common curriculum. Where are the intellectuals of America? America is great. America has great intellectuals who can come together and design a curriculum suitable for every school district in America. Curriculum is an ongoing process. It goes through changes over time. And so a particular curriculum can be changed over time. So the American intellectuals should be called upon to sit down to design a curriculum where suitable to guide all the states and to guide all the communities in America. Therefore, without a common curriculum, there is no specific guide. All the countries that have defeated America in terms of standardized education have a common curriculum, have a common standard, have a common syllabus which guide each student. Therefore, some people may say, I don't want to take my child to this particular school because they talk about creation. Creation is in the realm of religion. And there is no way in America where religion is even a major topic in the public schools. Nobody studies religion as a topic in American public schools. Some also may say, I don't want to take my child to this school because they talk about creation. Give the student the basic knowledge and let their mind revolve around that kind of knowledge. And in future, they will come out with a better understanding. In future, they can make researches and come out with new knowledge. So call upon the intellectuals of the United States of America. Call them. Give them that kind of responsibility to develop a common curriculum to guide all the states as well as all the community education in America. And with that guide, there will be a standard for each and every one. Because without standard, teachers teach anything they want to teach. So we need standard in education. So we say that lack of common curriculum is a big problem. But some politicians go around and say that we don't need a common core. You don't need a common curriculum? And you want the communities to have their own curriculum? And if a community is not matching the standard, you close down the school. Is it fair? That's not. If they have a common curriculum, then the school is not doing very well, you would therefore say that that school is the failing school. But if you allow all of them to have different curriculum, and then you end up to say that that school is a failing school, it's a major problem. We are all failing the children of the United States of America today. Also, education in some areas is being run as a business. If you run education as a business, you are putting the whole socialization of the students, of the youth, from educational point of view, in danger. Running schools like a business, there is always profit maximization in business. And therefore, schools that are being run as a business, they will try to cut down costs. And cutting down costs, sometimes it can affect the resources that the students are using. Sometimes it ends up paying teachers very low. And if you pay teachers very low, what will happen? Eventually, teachers may find a way out. Some schools, like charter schools and other school districts, would like to pay teachers $32,000, $35,000, $37,000, highest may be $40,000. And if there is a need area, they can negotiate and pay that particular teacher maybe $50,000. Those receiving low amount may find other ways to move on and leave the classroom. And another teacher will be hired, will move on. So eventually, students get different teachers in a particular year. Sometimes they end up getting substitute teachers throughout the whole year. Therefore, education, which is being run like a business, is a major problem. It's a problem because the profit aspect in education is killing education standard today. It's affecting educational standard of the United States of America today. So schools must be run as schools. Educators must be there to run schools as schools, rather than running schools like a business. That's a danger there. And if you pay a teacher $36,000, a teacher with a degree in the subject area and a degree in education, imagine how school costs. And then you come out and they are giving you $35,000. A good waitress who knows his art or her art can do better to get more than that in a year. And that waitress probably may not need a high school diploma. I'm not putting down waitress job. They are very important in the economy. But what I'm saying is that you can do that job without high school diploma, and you can come out with the same amount, which is being given to some teachers. So if you run schools as business, eventually it ends up getting no teachers at all in some situations. So we have to stop running schools as business. Furthermore, the standard has been going down because of the way we test our students, the standardized testing. When you talk about standardized testing, administrators freak out. Teachers freak out. Students shiver. Parents, they don't like it. Everybody hates standardized testing. Why? Is the testing not good? Is the test not properly set? If it is not properly set, teachers can give a feedback for the examiners to modify the standardized testing to reflect what is being taught in schools. If the standardized tests reflect what is being taught in schools and students are not passing, which means something is wrong. Standardized testing is to test the student, the knowledge gained. It's also testing teachers how they impart the knowledge. It tests administrators, the school environment. It tests parents, how they encourage their students. It tells the community the help they give to students to learn. So it tells a whole lot about education of a district. And so if students are not passing the standardized testing, and the standardized test is set according to the curriculum being used by the student, by the teachers, or by the school district, then there is something wrong. If the standardized test does not fit what is being taught, then it has to be changed. Standardized test is a standardized test. And therefore, students must pass it. Without that, there is no guide. How can you assess students without standardized testing? But with this standardized testing, I would say, if you want to test students, the 4th and 5th grade should not take standardized tests. They should take their teacher's test based upon the standard set by the school district. But the student at the 8th grade, the 7th grade, need to take standardized tests. They can take it in social studies, in sciences, in physical education, in health education, in music, and in art. Then they are moved into high school. 11th grade and 12th grade need standardized testing. They need the standardized testing to go to college. If it is so, the high school can offer 3 types of certificate. One certificate can be a certificate with standardized test endorsement on it, and it can be taken to any university in the country. 2, there should be a high school certificate which has to be attached to SAT and SAT. With the SAT and ACT test attached to that certificate, those students can also go to universities and colleges. But a school certificate that has no endorsement of the standardized test and had no backing of SAT and ACT must also be used to go to trade schools, which means school has covered everybody. The standardized test has been used to cover everybody. However, if somebody with a school certificate without any of this endorsement still want to go to college, have to retake the standardized test and have to be assessed by the college before admitting such a student. So standardized testing is there to guide the teachers, to guide administrators, and to guide the students in their learning process. Also, looking at the downhill of education in America, we have to see social passing. Social passing is a big problem. Why is it so? Because in American education, after 18 years, students are not supposed to be in school. And education based on the community that each and everyone knows each other, if a teacher doesn't pass a student, you imagine what will happen. The teacher will be living in fear of the parents and of the students. So the teacher has to find any means to pass the students. And that is the social passing we're talking about. Too much social passing is affecting the standard of education in the United States of America. And so there should be a way out to avoid social passing. Also, in schools, we have to look at the behavior of the students. The behavior of the students in terms of drug usage and the way they come to school. We have to have politicians and activists to speak to the students so that they can go to school with a good behavior. And with good behavior, hopefully, they will be able to learn to achieve the standard. So we need standard education in America. And we have to raise the standard. By raising the standard, America will look too good to the rest of the world that would like to emulate American educational system, because America is all in all in the world. And being all in all cannot sit down for its education to fall in standard. If it is compared to the world, and Donald Trump always says we are number 30 on the list, it's not good. It doesn't sound good. Something must be done. And these are some of the problems I have listed. Furthermore, we can also see that the language usage is so bad, and it's affecting the writing and the reading of the students. They don't write good because of the language. They get this language from home, from the community, and everywhere. Instead of learning the standardized language, they don't. That's why I say textbooks are very important. Either textbooks or e-books are very important for students to develop their language skills. So we need that. If we can do this, we can raise the standard of education in America. In what way can we face some of these problems that I've already talked about? If we want to fix some of these problems affecting student standard, is to make sure to give teachers equal pay. And that will prevent teachers from moving from one area to another within a short time. The turnover of teachers will not be so great. But if you pay them very low, and with the differential payment, teachers will search around and move very quickly from one school district to another school district, which end up in a particular school having 4 teachers in a classroom in a year. That affects students' learning. And also, having substitute teachers to take care of the students over the year affect the students' standard. And so if teachers are paid based upon qualifications and experience, that will work. And that will be more helpful to the students. So we have to do that. That teachers must have equal pay. With equal pay, teachers will be more willing to sacrifice to help the students. Therefore, with equal pay, I would say every teacher, to be highly qualified, must have a degree in the subject area that teacher teaches in a high school. In addition to the subject area, that teacher must also have educational degree. That will make the teacher a highly qualified teacher. With a degree in the subject area and a minor, major and a minor, and a degree in education makes the teacher a well-qualified teacher. If there are other people who have higher degrees, like in mathematics, in sciences, in other social science subjects, and they want to be teachers, hire them and give them a decent pay. And they can work out the process to get the education degree so as to become professional teachers. And that will make them highly effective. Also, we will ask our government, are they willing to spend a little more in education with specific reference to the inner city schools? If they are willing to spend more on education, then we will say they should build boarding schools in the inner cities in America. There are some societies that have boarding schools. If we have boarding schools in the inner city, there will be less students going into the juvenile homes. Juvenile crime can be cut down if they are in a boarding school. But because they go back to the same community, and if the community is bad, there's nothing one can help. But if they are in a boarding school, spend about 3 months in the school and spend 2 weeks holiday Christmas time, and also 2 weeks Easter holiday, and probably 1 month summertime, will always keep the students in check and make sure that these students are kept in such a way that they will develop a unique culture in the school system to come out as unique individuals to build American society. So if authorities want education to be better, particularly with the inner city schools, there is a need for boarding schools. Think about that. Then also, we have to eliminate the community-based education because it's so limited. In another way, we should also encourage male teachers in the middle school and the high school, and also at the elementary level. I do not say that more female teachers are not good, but if there is a balance of 60% females and 40% males, there is a balance here. But if you get a school with about 90% females and 10% males, that way students that come from single parenthood, they find it difficult to adjust. So you want to give the student everything that entails in education. Encourage the male teachers. Encourage males to be teachers. And put them there alongside the female to raise the children. Because today, in the United States of America, the family had failed the students. Religion is failing the youth. Mass media is still failing the youth. Peer group is failing the students. So only education. So make sure we have more males joining the females to raise the children for the betterment of the United States of America, so that we can know how to live very well among ourselves and also have to gain the skills we need for financial stability. We must also stop social passing in schools. That's not good. It's damaging the students. It's affecting the standard of education. That's why I suggested that community-based education is not too good, because it brings about inequality. And so, if we have a broad-based educational system, it will help to prevent social passing in schools. Also, I've already talked about common curriculum that can guide all the states and guide all community schools and even private schools to be more standard. We have great intellectuals, they can do the job. Call them and let them lay down a unique curriculum for the United States of America. Now also, schools need safety. They need security, and they need welfare. Security, safety, and welfare of the people of each school district. If we can get it, it's a problem. Today, children can walk into schools with guns and kill teachers and kill their fellow students, which is not good. We need security. If the soldiers that have been to war, when they come back, we can give them that job to guide the schools. Get some guys in the school, security in the schools. We need it to make academic life smoothly for the students. Going to school without fear. Going to school with the idea of learning. Because school is a civilized area. And as a civilized area, we don't entertain foolishness. And with this foolishness of schools being interrupted by guys with guns to shoot anyhow, is affecting educational standard in America. There is much fear sometimes in some school districts. A school district that has faced killing before is always that kind of shiveriness among teachers and students alike. So schools need security. We need it to ensure smooth running of schools. That way, standard will increase. We will be able to eliminate most of the problems that we face today. Voucher system in America looks like Jim Crow's law. Some authorities say, we like voucher system. Therefore, we will give you the money to go to any school you want to go. That will improve education in America. So voucher system is being supported by some politicians, by some authorities. But are you really sure that the voucher system will improve standard of education in America? Or can it really help students who are being funded very low to get to schools that they want? Guess what? Assuming you give students, let's say in a state, every student receives from the state $8,000 per people. But that is not the only funding for a school district. Districts have different millage systems. And so some school districts can afford more. Take, for instance, we look at Michigan. All students receive about $8,000 from the state. So Detroit students may receive $8,000 as funding. And then in Broomfield Hills, they have additional funding. And they can fund their students with about $40,000 per people or $25,000 per people. And if you receive $8,000 from your school district in Detroit, you don't fit in. Your money doesn't fit in. So you would not be accepted in that school. So what do you get? All that you will see is people coming with different educational strategies. And some will be sounding good. But the real practice, it is not too good than what you have already. So when it happens, you end up in alternative schools within the same district. It doesn't take you out of your district because your money doesn't fit the other district. So it will lead to the same inequalities. It will lead to the same conditions in which you find yourself. You are now even in a more predicament. Because when you are given the money, you're given the choice to take to any school. If there is a Catholic school or a mission school in your school district, and you are given that money, and that mission school is willing to accept you, that will be better. Other than that, all educational approaches will be the same like what you already have. So voucher system, to me, is not a better way of improving. Instead of voucher system, broaden the educational levels. The district must be broadened by county basis and allow students to move from one city to another city according to certain percentages allotted for each city. And when that is done, it will be a better way than the voucher system. The voucher system doesn't take you anywhere. There are private schools that are more expensive. And the people that go to that expensive private schools are children from affluent homes. So when you are giving your money, it doesn't fit that school. So you are stuck to your community-based education. That's why I say voucher system is not the proper way of addressing the problems facing the United States of American educational system today. It is better to tell those authorities who believe in charter system as a way of alleviating the problem, rather they are going to compound the problem. So voucher is not a solution. If we are talking about public schools, charter, it's not a solution. Voucher system is not a solution to the problem because you will end up in alternative school, which is not better than your public school.